PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, where we break down every single game of the 2024-2025 season, we're going to be breaking down the most recent matchup that happened as the Vegas Golden Knights were at home at T-Mobile Arena, and they took on the Carolina Hurricanes. And you have one of the best teams out there in the Eastern Conference, a real good competitive team. And, you got the Vegas Golden Knights, an organization that has done perfect at home at this point. And we're going to break down all of this game. And, unfortunately, there's no else way to put it. Vegas Golden Knights, they got their ass kicked. Carolina Hurricanes dominated from almost the time that started till the time it ended. There is a lot of news and a lot of moves that we're going to be talking about here on this episode. And, yeah, looking forward to talking about this recap show and doing this quick 20 minutes, talking about how the Vegas Golden Knights lost 5-2 to the Carolina Hurricanes. So this should be a very fun video. Very fun indeed. So let's get right into it. And let's get into the pregame notes, because there is a practice note that I do need to mention on this episode. And that is goaltender Ilya Samsonov. So after having his injury concern a while back, he is now skating in the normal jersey. Him and Adin Hill were skating around in practice earlier this morning. Now, Samsonov is not going to be in net yet. He has not been medically cleared. Akira Schmid is the backup for Adin Hill, but it is still good progress. And it's really good to see the fact that Ilya Samsonov is skating again, and he is in his jersey skating around with the team right now for the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And, really no major shakeups on the lines. In fact, the line is very similar to what it was in the previous game. In fact, we'll go over the line in just a minute. But, the goaltending situation, you don't want to see injuries, right? You never want to see people get injured. You never want to see people get hurt. No intention there. But the goalie depth with Vegas was a concern before the season started. A lot of people wondered if Hill got hurt like he did last season. If Samsonov suffered an injury at one point, would they have some goaltending depth? Akira Schmid, we've gotten to see just a little sneak peek of what he could do. And then, of course, we have, Isaiah Seville. We have Jesper Beckman. We have Carl Lindbaum. There's these goaltenders down in the minors, but, it's kind of interesting on goaltending depth to see how well Vegas would be if they had to rely on them with an injury. And, Ilya Samsonov, welcome back in practice. Good to see him skating around. Now, the forward lines for the Vegas Golden Knights in this matchup, you have Ivan Barbashev, Jack Eichel, and Nicholas Waugh on line one. So Nicholas Waugh, once again, back on the first line because of the injury to Mark Stone that happened in Edmonton. This is the second game now that Mark Stone is not in the first line, not even in the lineup because he is injured. Jack Eichel, Ivan Barbashev, the chemistry we have seen from those two has been remarkable so far this year. Really seeing the great chemistry we have from Eichel and Barbashev. Line two, and this line's been pretty concrete over the last couple of weeks. Ivan Barbashev and Jack Eichel are good concrete as well, but Brett Howden, Tomas Hertl, and Pavel Dorofeyev, who has really been the breakout star of 24-25 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Pavel Dorofeyev doing a fantastic job on that line too. Him and Brett Howden really have been building up some chemistry there. On line three, Alexander Holt, William Karlsson, and Tanner Pearson. William Karlsson, I feel like, he could swap with Hertl at some point during the season, but right now, Karlsson, ever since coming back from injury, they're missing the first couple of games on that third line. Then you have the youngster and Alexander Holtz really still trying to prove himself with the Golden Knights organization. Tanner Pearson, that was a good one-year deal they gave him. He's kind of earned that one-year deal based off of the first dozen games we've seen so far. And then on the fourth line, Jonas Roundbeer, who they called up because of the Mark Stone injury. Jonas Roundbeer on line four, Cole Schwind in the fourth center spot, and then Keegan Kolazar, who has been your dependable fourth-line winger for majority of his run here in Vegas. And then with the defensive pairings, these have been the same ever since a certain person got injured. Noah Hannafin, Alex Petrangelo, they have kind of been your two best defensemen. That's who the Vegas Golden Knights are counting on first defensive pairing. On defensive pairing 2, Shea Theodore coming off that extension a while back, and Braden McNabb, who's going to be looking for an extension. And then you have Ben Hutton and Zach Whitecloud. Of course, Nicholas Hague still not in the lineup because of the injury he suffered a while back. So Ben Hutton still in that relief role. He is your third defensive pairing. And then I mentioned that even though Ilya Samsonov is skating around, he is not medically cleared yet from injury. So you have Aiden Hill coming in, and he's starting, a few games back-to-back now. So, yeah, Aiden Hill, we're going to see how he can do. We'll see against Carolina. And in this game, when you saw the Carolina Hurricanes, Vegas Golden Knights, it was pretty apparent from the first 5 minutes that the energy, the hustle, the pace, Carolina was just outperforming Vegas where it mattered the most. Didn't matter if it was in the neutral zone. Didn't matter if it was in the defensive zone, offensive zone. When they're doing their forechecks, their back checks. I mean, Carolina just looked like a better team structurally almost all night long. And, Vegas Golden Knights, they just weren't able to really be, that, proactive team. They were more of a, counteractive team. Instead of being the team that was punching first, they were kind of, on the counterattack, counter-punching what Carolina was doing. And the first period was a massive part of that, as when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes and Vegas Golden Knights matchup, that first period, there was one penalty in the first period by the Vegas Golden Knights. That would be a Pavel Dorofeyev penalty that opened the door for Carolina. And in this first period, this was really one of the only things that stood out to me. As Carolina Hurricanes, they didn't just have one goal in the first period. No, they had two in the first period. As a matter of fact, the Carolina Hurricanes had 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of play and opened up that 2-0 opening, kind of what I'm alluding to. Vegas, they just seemed like a counterpunching team for majority of this matchup. And, people are going to blame Aiden Hill. I'm not a goalie hater. I'm not someone that's going to bash goalies when their defense has done little to nothing to help them. This game was clearly a lack of defense helping out the goaltender. That first goal, Eric Robinson, that was a goal that I feel like if you had some more defense on there, that could have been maybe prevented. Then the second goal from Kotkaniemi, this is a guy who came over from Montreal. Carolina did all that work to bring him over. And he's been, kind of a, middle 6 forward type of guy out there in Carolina. And, he banks his second goal of the season. He comes back. Good for him. But overall, when it comes to Carolina Hurricanes opening up that 2-0 lead on the Vegas Golden Knights, I blame it majority on the defense. The defense just did not do what needed to be done in this game, regardless of the tripping penalty by Pavel Dorofeyev, which, you can blame it on a lack of discipline. You can do anything on a tripping penalty. You can say, your hockey IQ, you got to be more aware. But overall, the Vegas Golden Knights, their penalty kill, throughout the game, the penalty kill, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst either. On the power play, Vegas Golden Knights, that's one of the only things I will give them credit for. Their power play definitely helped out later on in the game. But in the first period, Vegas Golden Knights just looked sluggish. They just seemed like a team that just wasn't ready in that first period. And it showed. So Carolina up 2-0 at the end of the first period. And during the intermission, when they're coming in and out at T-Mobile Arena, we were hoping for maybe a different flow. Maybe some, energy was going to come in when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights. And unfortunately, the second period just ended up being more of the same, unfortunately. As unfortunately for your Vegas Golden Knights, the Carolina Hurricanes would expand on their 2-0 lead in the first period as Jordan Staal would score and make it a 3-0 game for Carolina. But what made that worse is that they were shorthanded. The Vegas Golden Knights were on the power play and allowed a goal to Jordan Staal to make it a 3-0 game. And shorthanded goals are normally an embarrassment to the defense on the side of the team that was on the power play. Just lack of hustle. I just really didn't like the way I saw this team play in that first and really the beginning of the second period. as not even 10 minutes into the second period, the Vegas Golden Knights would let up their fourth goal of the game. And this just looked terrible for the Vegas Golden Knights to be down 4-0 in the second period at home. And for a team that's pretty strong at home, a team that was 8-0 to begin the season at home for the Vegas Golden Knights, it was embarrassing to see them be down 4-0 in the beginning of the second period. And I'm not taking anything away from Tyson Jost. His first goal of the season for the Carolina Hurricanes, good for him. This is a guy who was a former Colorado Avalanche. He's been around the league for a little bit. I believe Minnesota and Buffalo. I mean, he's kind of just been, doing the journeyman route, going from team to team. But, Tyson Jost with his first goal of the season, but Carolina up 4-0. And that's just not really a good thing for the Vegas Golden Knights. What also didn't help out is not only were they 0 for 1 on the power play, but they let up 2 penalties towards the end of the second period, and it felt like it was unnecessary penalties. I mean, Keegan Kolesar has gotten a lot better in terms of taking unnecessary penalties, but that was just a penalty I felt wasn't really needed in that situation. And the only props I will give is that they went 2 for 2 on the penalty kill in the second period. They killed off both penalties there. So, I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, the penalty kill did well in that second period. Power play, unfortunately, didn't step up as they allowed a shorthanded goal instead of scoring on the power play. But, once the second period ended and everyone went back home, you could feel the energy in the stadium. You could feel at the Fortress down 4-0 at the second period. It was going to take a miraculous comeback by the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, don't get me wrong. We've seen comebacks before. We saw Ottawa a few weeks ago. The Vegas Golden Knights had a rough start against Ottawa, came back and won at the end. So there was a glimmer of hope. Maybe they could overcome and start wrapping up and start racking up goals for the Vegas Golden Knights. But unfortunately, the third period would end up being a bad situation for the Vegas Golden Knights against the Carolina Hurricanes. And the reason I bring that up, and the reason why I'm saying when it comes to the Golden Knights and the Hurricanes game, there was a situation as Adin Hill was pulled in the second period after giving up 4 goals, only having 17 saves on 21 shots. Adin Hill was pulled in the second period, and Akira Schmid, who I alluded to a little bit earlier in the show, he made his Vegas Golden Knights debut. Now, when it comes to Akira Schmid, all right, he did well enough, okay? I mean, this was a guy who stepped in. He had to, play a decent amount of minutes. He had to play a full period and almost a period and a half. But, Adin Hill being pulled in the second period after giving up those 4 goals, it was just a really bad night for Adin Hill. And what I'm going to allude to in a little bit is the possible injury of Adin Hill. So, Ilya Samsonov coming back from practice, well, hey, we might need Ilya Samsonov very quickly, because when Adin Hill was skating off, he was kind of favoring his right leg. So I don't know if he suffered a leg injury, and that's the reason why he performed so badly. But yeah, he was kind of favoring his right leg. It wasn't looking right when he skated off and Akira Schmid skated onto the ice for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the good news in the third period is that it wasn't a blowout for the Vegas Golden Knights, as Jack Eichel would get his 6th goal of the season and would put the Vegas Golden Knights on the board. So, hey, 4-1, maybe there's going to be some momentum here. Hey, you know what? Maybe the Vegas Golden Knights, they can end up doing something relatively well with this third period. Jack Eichel gets them on the board. Hey, maybe we'll see them do something. Well, unfortunately for the Vegas Golden Knights, any hope of them even trying to make a comeback, any hope of the Vegas Golden Knights doing anything in that realm was dashed, as there would be an empty net goal by the Carolina Hurricanes, and it wasn't even like at the 5-minute mark. It was like 6 or 7 minutes left. Vegas Golden Knights pulled the empty net down 4-1, and Carolina took advantage, shot it into the empty net, and made it a 5-1 game. Being down by 4 goals, I mean, this is a Vegas Golden Knights team that kind of, is mostly known for being a strong team in the third period. but they just looked depleted. They just looked like they were a depleted, deflated organization by the end of the game. And the only real positive I can have is that this is a Vegas Golden Knights team that had one penalty in the third period. It was an Ivan Barbashev penalty. He went to the box, and they killed off the penalty. So that was good for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then the Carolina Hurricanes would open the door, towards the end of the game. When you're down 5-1, Carolina would get a penalty and put the Golden Knights on the power play. And Ivan Barbashev, who took that penalty earlier in the same period, he would score on the power play and would make it a 5-2 game by the end of it at T-Mobile Arena. And, I have to give credit to Ivan Barbashev. He did have a nice performance in this game. He was actually one of the only players I noticed that really showed a lot of hustle. Like, he showed some heart, throughout the entire game. He was trying to put the puck in the back of the net. He was looking at his shot opportunities. So, yeah, Ivan Barbashev, have to give him credit there for what he tried to do in this game. But, two players can't, make up for an entire 20-man roster. And, Ivan Barbashev, despite his nice performance, this was just a really bad outing for Vegas. There's no nice way to sugarcoat it. There's really no nice way to sit here and say it. The Vegas Golden Knights looked like a bad team tonight. And, their power play, they made it up at the end, but those first opportunities, they did not look well. Their penalty kill was really one of the only saving graces they had in the second and third period, because they didn't allow any more goals to get put in the back of the net by Carolina, despite the multiple opportunities that Vegas gave Carolina. Lack of discipline is really what I put on there. But overall, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I really sit here and I look at them and go, you're going to have to recoup. You're going to have to look at your next matchup, which is Anaheim. And we're going to do the recap show for that one as well. And you're going to really have to sit there and look at and go, you know what? We had a bad game. The winning streak at home is snapped. You're now 8-1 at home. And this is a team that's still one of the top teams in the Western Conference. You're going to have bad games every once in a while. This just happened to be one of those bad matchups. Player of the game, which we do to every single game, would go to Jack Eichel. Him scoring that first goal and his performance on the power play. He was trying to create opportunities there. So Jack Eichel would be your player of the game for Vegas Hockey Hub Recap. And since we have a few minutes left, I do want to mention this because I did play the tribute video for him. William Carrier, the misfit, the guy who'd been with the Golden Knights for 7 seasons, he made his return to the Vegas Golden Knights while playing for Carolina. So the guy who was beloved by the Vegas Golden Knights, someone who was a fan favorite for some people, his legacy with the Golden Knights being a 2017 NHL expansion draft selection, him being a 2023 Stanley Cup champion. So William Carrier definitely made an impact in Vegas. They played the tribute for him. He did, applaud the Vegas Golden Knights. He took a second, did his little skate around and everything like that. And William Carrier, I definitely appreciate what he did here those 7 years, being a bottom 6 forward. I was harsh critic for the longest time because of his injury problems, but it's the National Hockey League. It's kind of hard to, get over certain things like that. But yeah, it was nice to see William Carrier come back. I wish him the best in Carolina. He signed that, very well multi-year deal to go to the Carolina Hurricanes, be a veteran presence on that team on the bottom 6. So William Carrier made his return to the Vegas Golden Knights, and I wish him well out there in Carolina. And this is the win-loss record for your Vegas Golden Knights. And so far this season, 9 wins in 15 games. And, you're still one of the best teams in the Western Conference, but there are some teams starting to kind of, be up there with you. Winnipeg is there. Minnesota's there. Calgary and LA have so far done a pretty well job in the Pacific Division alongside Vegas. So for Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, this is your 5-2 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. And hopefully the next game against Anaheim will be a lot better on the stat sheet and on the score sheet for your Vegas Golden Knights. And until next time, continue watching all of our content here on Vegas Hockey Hub. We upload, every single day onto our YouTube channel and on PR Connections Radio. So until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and go Knights, go.